Right now, I'm standing in front of the site of Hitler's Berghof. As a matter of fact, you can see some of the ruins here behind me. In a recent episode of History Traveler, we went over this area and kind of dissected where things would have been. There were a lot of big events that happened right here at the Berghof, and one in particular that seems a little bit odd for the Nazis especially, that involves a little Jewish girl that Hitler was completely captivated by. The Berghof. Of all of the places that Hitler occupied during the years leading up to and including World War II, it was at this mountain retreat in the Obersalzberg where he spent a large portion of his time, and where many of the most consequential decisions of the Third Reich were made. Originally called the Haus Wachenfeld, Hitler purchased the property in 1933 with the money that he had received from Mein Kampf, and within a few years, he began renovating and expanding the home. On April 25th of 1945, the Berghof was damaged in an RAF bombing raid shortly before being burned by the SS and then looted by the U.S. 3rd Infantry Division. But before all of that, this mountain retreat served as a place where Hitler hosted many of his most important meetings. Many leading figures of the Third Reich, such as Heinrich Himmler and Reinhard Heydrich, met with their Fuhrer here. It played host to a number of foreign dignitaries. Along with his more important guests, the Berghof also served as the place where close associates and their families could visit with Hitler in a more relaxed environment. And on occasion, the German people themselves could come and see their leader in person right here at the Berghof. Here's another story that's kind of interesting. So here we have the turn from the road that goes to the driveway that leads up to the Berghof. You can see, some of the lining for the driveway there. And there was this account where Hitler would come down to this spot right here and would greet people or wave at them as they were walking by or whatever, but he's out in the hot summer sun and it's getting to be a little bit much for him. So he says something to Bormann about it, and the next day he comes down and Bormann has had a tree planted right here. You can see this in some of the propaganda photos of the Berghof. And later on, they chop down this tree, but this is something called a linden tree, and the dang thing keeps growing back. So you can see those sprouts coming up, and you can see here where they continue to chop away at it, but yeah, it keeps coming back. But anyway, yeah, another kind of an interesting thing here around the Berghof.
This is an original photograph postcard by Heinrich Hoffmann, who was Hitler's personal photographer. And of course, Hitler's in the photo, and a little girl named Rosa Bernile Nienau, who was one of the children who came to visit Hitler. All kinds of kids would walk down this road in front of the Berghof from the Platterhof in hopes to meet their Fuhrer. He would come out sometimes and greet children and other onlookers, sometimes sign autographs and take photographs. Little Rosa happened to share the same birth date as Adolf Hitler, and Hitler became enchanted with her and she became known as the Fuhrer's child. The really other interesting thing about this is hand signed by Adolf Hitler. Postcards such as this were sold at the Platterhof and the various hotels in town, and people would buy them, and sometimes you would see Hitler sign these photographs. It's common to see him with a name like that, but to have the whole inscription there and the fact that it does say Obersalzberg 1938 makes this a very interesting autograph, to say the least. But back to little Rosa. So Hitler became enchanted with her, and she came back many times. She was invited up here for years, and it was found out that her grandmother was Jewish, making her mother half Jewish, which was a problem for the Nazi regime. It's thought that Hitler may have known, but it chose to ignore it. But once Bormann found out, he contacted Rosa's mother and said, do not bring her back to the Obersalzberg anymore. She did continue to correspond with Hitler, and it's a tragic story also, not because just the Nazi aspect of it, but little Rosa ended up dying at the age of 17. She didn't live past the war either. She died at age 17 in 1943 of polio. But there's a lot of Heinrich Hoffmann photographs taken of her, at least over a dozen that I've seen, and it's really interesting and taken right here at this spot.
All right, well, that was just a little bit on the Fuhrer's child and some of the photos that were taken right here in this very spot. And even though this little girl, died at a young age, we're still learning things from her today. Her life and her example is really a testament to how ridiculous and insane the Nazi race ideology was. All of us are created equal and are created in the image of God. And the Nazis did not see things that way. They saw this hierarchy, that there were the Untermenschen, and that there was the superior race. And this little girl completely blows all of that out of the water when the man at the top, the Fuhrer of the Third Reich, absolutely adored this girl when he didn't know what her true background was. I think there's a lot that can be learned from those photos and from that little girl. But anyway, those photos were taken right here in this very spot at Hitler's Berghof.